What's up, everybody? So I'm back again. Um, I want to backtrack a little bit from the intro to Black Lightning to Descendants 2. All right, Descendants 2, the ending is the biggest highlight of everything. Okay. First, I want to tell you, the main character, the prince or the king, is named Ben, and if you know Hebrew, Ben in Hebrew means son. So if you put it together, Benson, also known as Gibson. Anyway, everything was about, believe it or not, me and China on that scene. I'll just say on that scene, where they're on the ship and she's going back and forth with Ben. Like it's like a twist happened in the movie where Ben supposedly has a spell upon him and he's in love with Uma, which is Ursula's daughter in the show, Ursula's daughter. And he was supposed to marry Mal, which is the daughter of Maleficent. So first thing, or let me just say this also, what you should know about Disney, or at least this show, Descendants, everything is reversed, everything is backwards. So whatever they're saying, it's opposite. You know, if they say something negative, it's something positive. If they say something positive, it's something negative. That's how it is. Okay. So, and some things are like improv, whereas though they're saying something that actually happened spiritually, that's not part of the routine of opposites or whatever. And it's a key point. Now, in the ending of Descendants 2, let's continue on. The ending of Descendants 2, China is depicting what happened between me and her, and when Disney abducted us, and we were like going back and forth for trying to save our lives in this thing, save our souls in this thing, since 2013 up until this moment, and still going on, keeping our souls safe. It just was very, very fearful at first because we were fighting for our souls and our lives not to die, and in the end of it, or by this point where we at now, it became a lot more easier, but we have a lot more physical opposition from people that are into their spiritual type of situations that they're in, trying to come at us and combat us. But it has some effect, but not as heavy as an effect that it did when it first started. All right, so, and also Cameron Boyce died behind the same thing that we were fighting for, which confirms that what we were going through was a very severe and critical thing where you cannot wake up, from your sleep or something. So anyway, continuing on, I'm going to show some clips and I'm going to show the clip in the end where she's coming down and Ben has the spell upon him, and it's a shock where Ben is now all of a sudden in love with Uma. And Ben was supposed to be with Mal, because Ben was the opposite thing. Is Ben was supposed to be not inclined spiritually to know that Mal is somebody that, he really not supposed to be with, or whatever the case is. So many people want to be the queen or whatever. And Uma is the one that ended up getting Ben to be in love with her. And this was the part that's just telling me and her part of the story. And then they flipped it back to the spell goes off of him. So they're trying to figure out what happened. How did Ben and you end up being together, and he's all in love with you for, and it didn't last long. It was like when y'all was in love with each other, it was the realest thing ever. But all of a sudden, then the spell goes off of him. This was supposedly what it was, but it didn't go off of me. It was more so confusing, where I didn't believe it was true, or I didn't believe that it was something that many people knew about. I thought it was just to me, known to me, or whatever the case. I was raised different, where I was told my dreams and imaginations and stuff is not real. So I really believed that growing up. I had nobody teaching me the different components of dreams and things and what they mean, blah, blah, blah. So I just lived my whole life thinking that stuff was just private to me and nobody could see what I was seeing type stuff. And they kept that thing going on. So here it is. China is telling the story but the clip I'm gonna show doesn't have the part where she's talking all the way about it, but it goes into a certain part of the scene. But the main part was when she asked her, how did this happen? And she was like, it was love.
I'm sorry. It all happened so fast. Something happened to me when I was on the aisle with Uma. A connection.
What are you saying?
I'm saying...
It was love. It was. I realized how alike Ben and I are, you know?
We are.
No.
You're so beautiful.
Ben. Ben. Did you go back for her?
And that was true. That is very true. When that happened, that was the best moment of my life, even though it was in a dream. I never felt love with a woman like that ever in my life. It was the most genuine, the most sincere, pure type of love. There was no games, no gimmicks, no ulterior motives, no intentions. It was just two people in a predicament, and they ended up being in love with each other. And it was so real that it gave them enough power to fight for their lives together. And till this very day, even though they haven't physically met, still have such a such a spiritual connection that they're still fighting together alongside one another. And things are happening from it. Things are literally physically happening from these two people spiritually being connected and have never physically met yet. You know, and that's funny, but that's so powerful. That's such a powerful thing, and that they're putting it in movies and shows and things like that, and it has caused a big impact. You know, but these two people never physically met though, but y'all caused such a big uproar or whatever the case. So she goes on to say it was love, and I agree, because it was so. I felt the exact same way in that moment when it was happening. You know, but I thought it was just for me, something special for me. But when she said it, it was like, wow, equally as special for her as it was for me. So it was speaking to me. All right, the next part, it goes into her talking about how we escaped right at that point. Okay, so that's the main point that everybody want to know. How did we escape? So she tells, like, I dived through the barrier. Okay, so I'm gonna show that part of the clip right here.
I dove through the barrier before it closed, and I'm an excellent swimmer.
Oh, thank you.
Listen, Mal, I just really want to thank you. I do.
All right. So when she talked about we dived through the barrier and she's a good swimmer, what it was saying is that we were good at escaping. Like, we were really, like, getting out of there. You know, like, it wasn't really necessarily swimming, but it was like when I had got shot in the chest by Optimus Prime. Stupidest thing to ever say, for real. It's funny. So stupid, so funny that you gotta be true. Like, who would make that up? I got shot in the chest by Optimus Prime. Anyway, skipping some. When she talked about she was a good swimmer, she was pulling me. But it was like when you're in a pool with someone and they're like drowned, or they're drowning or whatever, or they can't swim, or they out of it, unconscious or whatever, because they done got on so much water, or they can't swim or something. It's like you just in the water and you got this person up behind you, and they backstroking and trying to get you to shore or whatever. That's exactly what it was like. So when she said I'm a good swimmer, meaning she was not playing. She was pulling me back. But what I was doing was holding my breath, and she was making compression chambers, like compression balls, to compress us so that if the vision fall, we can come back at a certain point in time. And we still have compression chambers. Before our minds went away and all of the plans that we had set already, like, we knew we were going to forget, and we knew that years were going to pass where we're not going to remember a lot of things, and we're gonna kind of be forgetful of things and forgetful of each other. We're gonna go through the emotions of an emotional roller coaster of loving each other and not loving. We knew we was gonna go through that, and people coming in our lives, moving on, smoothing on, and stuff. We knew that was gonna happen, so we pre-planned. So we had ended up making a lot of different compression chambers for different points in time when the vision would open up again, and we can instantly come back to what we were doing, and boom, all right, and we get our memory back and get back to the mission, bop, 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 bop. And there's still compression chambers there. That's what I know for sure, that we still have certain, and every compression chamber is timed. So we timed everything to when we would wake up at this specific time, and then we would get to doing what we need to do right here, and then bam, go back to a base mind again on Earth and not knowing anything, and then wake up again at a different specific time and a different compression. And she would make the compression chambers, which would be like, it's like the same thing that a child is compressed into when they're in the womb of a woman, so that the soul of the child being, molded into the stomach doesn't drop out of the whatever, the fetus and stuff. So it compresses itself in a spiritual bubble, and that's what we were doing, compressing ourselves. One of the first things you know how to do coming to be born into this planet is to compress your soul into a chamber to shield yourself from the demons and the devils and stuff like that, so that they don't get to you while you're trying to be born and eat you. Next thing you know, a miscarriage happens. So that's what first thing you learn how to do. In physical terms, you can look into RH factor, the RH factor, or RN factor, one of those. I think it's the RH factor. Okay, early child education, but RH factor talks about how the mother's body attacks the baby's body, and there's a foreign object. So it's something spiritual that's happening to where the body reads something foreign inside of the baby that is attacking the baby and trying to eat the baby, which also is how babies come out with vitiligo and things like that. But anyway, that's the physical part, science, whatever you want, physical evidence. All right, let's go back to Beyond Human Logic. So anyway, going back to Beyond Human Logic, it was like she was backstroking, and while she was backstroking, I was holding my breath, and while I was holding my breath, she was making compression chambers, and she was timing it so that when we would wake up or whatever we had to do in the physical world, we would do it, and then by the time we go back to sleep, we would be back in the vision again, and then I would unhold my breath, and she would swim and swim and swim. It seemed like she was swimming, but we really was ascending. So it's kind of like we were at the bottom of an ocean and we were swimming out. That's what it seemed like, but we really was like ascending or whatever the case. And we had to get to the gate, and Jesus was in the way, and we had to get around Jesus eventually. I kind of forgot how we got around him. He just was so bright because he was stealing people's worship. So all of the genuine worship and genuine prayers that people had to the true creator, he was stealing them, and he was putting them to himself because they was calling on the wrong deity out of that physical mouth. So here it is. We gets out of there, and when we get out of there, we started making compression chambers that were infinite, because then once we got to that point, we started remembering from before we were born what we were doing, who we were, why we wasn't born together like we were supposed to be born together, like what happened on Earth to cause us to have our flight to not be together like it was supposed to be. Our flight into the Earth was supposed to be together, and we were supposed to be born twins. All right, the next part was when Ben started telling Mal to confirm that, yeah, we meant to be together and da-da-da-bop-bop, and that's right here.
Don't you see, Mal? You were right. You knew that we weren't meant to be together. That's why you never told me that you loved me. Thank you.
He's, confirming everything she said, which is the flip. Whereas though, I'm the one saying everything like how I am now, and she's confirming everything I'm saying. So it's like you see it in the show where she's just head over heels, like, "Oh, I'm in love with this guy and we belong together," type stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, she's right. You know, we love each other, blah blah blah." You know, and it's the reverse in the physical, like in the physical world right now, where I'm saying everything and she's gonna confirm everything. And then after that part, they try to put a picture. They painted a picture. The picture symbolizes a life that they planned out for Ben.
Come here, unveil the gift. They need to see it.
And now for the unveiling of King Ben's masterpiece, designed especially for his lady.
That they painted already and it's in order and in session, so he has to go through that because there's some kind of heavenly decree that was pushed or pulled by the evil one to push Ben's life to go a certain way away from who he's supposed to be with, which is China, who's playing Uma. And so everybody's like looking at the picture like, oh, this is the big plan right here. You know, Ben's gonna propose to Mal, which ended up happening. What ended up marrying a girl in Utah, you know, and we got divorced now, but that's what happened because I moved on. You know, me not believing that my dreams are real and stuff, being dumb-minded, or they called it being spell-minded, not knowing or understanding or having a lack of information or knowledge about spiritual things. My life went a certain way, me not being mindful, and I ended up doing things out of the purity of my heart, and I was walking in a trap, like, you know, a lamb led to a slaughter, you know, so it was like, and so the picture was painted already. So you had to go through the picture. So what ended up happening was Uma gets mad. China's getting mad. Like, take that picture down.
Cover that back up.
I will not.
Why don't you tell everyone the present you have for me, Ben?
I have an announcement. Uma will be joining the court tonight as my lady.
Son. Not now, Dad!
Yeah. So as my gift to her, I'm bringing down the barrier once and for all. Mateys, we ride with the tide! Yeah! Fairy Godmother, bring down the barrier.
I most certainly will not.
I am your king!
Obey him.
Stop it, blah, blah, blah. And she's getting real critical. But that's real because what happened was they did that to her in How to Build a Better Boy. Bringing it back, Uma's going crazy. You know, China's going crazy on the ship, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And they like, calm down, this, that, and the third. But everything is reversed. Remember that. And so Mal steps up and da-da-da-da-da, give her a few words, you know, just read into it. And China climbs up on the top of the thing. And what happened was we jumped in the water. So what happened was we escaped. She was just reconfirming what happened. We jumped back in the water. And that was the end of everything after we got all of the information that we got when we were doing all of the compression. We ended up having, I don't know everything. That all I remember was that we had to sacrifice or something, and we had jumped in the water. It was like a decision that had to be made, and we made this decision because it would have protected us better or something like that, and we ended up getting thrown in the water.
Do not let your pride get in the way of something that you really want.
But before we got thrown in the water, we made love together. In her bed, she had like a bedroom and stuff, and we locked together. And we stayed locked together like that, even to this very day. We're locked in together like that. In the missionary position, we can't unseal from each other. You know, we can't. Only person that can unlock us is our Father Mikael, the Archangel. He's the only one that has the authority and the power to unseal us. So for the rest of our lives, whether we meet each other physically or not, we'll be breathing each other's breath, and we'll be eating from each other's life force, recycling it back and forth for the rest of our lives. You know, and we're sealed together to where we don't see anything around us or whatever. We're a closed system. We have a world within ourselves. Me being a soul house, we are our own house. So that's what happened when we sealed together. We got thrown in the water. So she jumped off the ship and went into the water. Bam. So here it is. At the end, it's a symbolization where after the fight and the beef between Mal and Uma, like we're fighting, which was a symbolization of fighting Jesus and all of this other crap. So the emblem that she had that kept shining was the souls or whatever, the souls that we gathered or whatever while we were here. And they shine, you know, minds shine. And there's the symbolization that life is within us. And we have our own world and that's the symbolization of it. And we gave it to Ben. So that's where the change flipped. We gave it to the beast, okay? Or rather, the symbolization is dual. It's a dual symbolization. But the one for us is that she's putting the souls that she gathered of the women and the children or the young men or whatever the case in the hands of Gibson. And she's like, with all tears and fear, hoping that I don't misuse them or whatever, or I don't flake or nothing like that, you know, that I'm going to protect all of the souls or whatever that was collected. And she goes back into the water. So what was happening was really that guy Ben, he's just the actor of that at that point. But she went back into the water where I was, or as where we were, or whatever the case. But what she's acting as is Uma. So Uma is supposedly octopus or squid or one of the smartest water creatures that knew what was going on under the waters. Like, yo, I'm going to tell this story. And I'm going to use the woman that you did this to tell the story because you did it to her and she's part of Disney still. So I'm going to use her to tell you what you did to them. And we saw it. You know, it's nothing hidden. So then at that point, China actually becomes, you know, Uma or Ursa, or just the sea creatures that saw what was going on. So it kind of like it cuts and everybody stops improvising or stops depicting what actually happened. And they go back to just being a regular self. So the story was told, or whatever the case. The part where Cameron said, I risked my life for this. I think that's exactly what he said. I need to go back and really watch the movie or whatever the case. I should have. But he said, I risked my life for this, or I gave my life for him, or something like that he said.
Not too thrilled I risked my life for him.
That statement was a future statement. And when he did die, basically, whatever the case, it was saying he was dying fighting for the cause, okay, of saving the souls of people, fighting for Yah, bringing the souls to the Most High Creator Yah. And that's what he was a part of. And that's what he was risking his life for, getting the souls of the children in Disney out of Disney. You know, ever since we talked to each other on Facebook when he was young playing on Jesse. You know, and he's been riding ever since. So with that said, hopefully you enjoyed this one.